from lunch and the breakout sessions. We hope you had a great time at those. Now we are ready to get into our Innovation Showdown. We are going to start with our early stage, but before we do that, we have a couple prizes that we will be giving these guys. Of course, they'll get coverage on VentureBeat, so such a prestigious prize. You'll also get a Q&A. The mid-stage company winner will get a Q&A with JDOS, who's the managing partner at SAP Ventures. We also will have a Norwest Venture Partners working lunch with Bob Abbott as a prize, and the winners will be announced at the closing comments today at 5:10. So now let's get these early stage judges on stage. We are going to start with General Catalyst Principal Deepak Jivan Kumar. Welcome on stage. As well as Tom Rumberger. He is the partner of Foley and Lardner LLP. Robbie Belaney. He is the managing partner of Alchemist Accelerator. Actually, if you both go one over. Thanks. Bob Abbott. He's a general partner at Norwest Venture Partners. And Matt Acco, he is the co-managing partner at Data Collective. All right, so the way this is going to work is we are going to have the startups. We've got 5 early stage and 5 late stage. The 5 early stage companies will come on one at a time and give a 4-minute presentation, and they will be cut off swiftly at the end. They all know that. And then afterward, we will have a 1-minute judging session where these guys can really get into it with the startups on stage. So let's have out first and foremost AirPost.
Thanks. My name's Nav, and I'm with AirPost. And I'm going to want some audience participation. I've already talked to a bunch of you beforehand. So if you can, do you mind changing, if you have an iPhone, your proxy settings? Or you can do it on your computer. You can choose not to if you want. So this is how to do it. You know, go into your settings, Wi-Fi, click on whatever Wi-Fi you're in, scroll down to HTTP proxy, click on manual, and change your server to demo.airpost.io and your port to 3000. So for the next 3.5 minutes, I am your CIO and you're my employees. And you guys have given me a lot of stress because you're putting a lot of confidential information into places I don't know about, like Dropbox or GitHub. And I need to know where my information is going, and I need to control that, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to detect what services you guys are using and set controls on those services and learn how you're also using it after, right? So I'm going to do it with you. So I'm going to go to Bitcasa, which is like another kind of Dropbox, right, file sharing. So I've gone to Bitcasa. And when I go to my dashboard as a CIO, I'm going to see all the services. So 43 services have been detected. These are the services that you guys went to and that I went to. So I'm going to go to Bitcasa. And you guys can follow along with me, too, if you've changed your proxy. And I'm going to change this to redirect setting, right? Because I don't want people to use Bitcasa. Instead, I want you guys to use Huddle if you're using Bitcasa, right? But also, for all content management solutions, we use Box at our company, right? Our company. So I also want to make sure you guys know that Box is the platform you guys should use and sign in with your enterprise credentials. So next time you go to Bitcasa, and if you've already done this with your proxy, you can go to Bitcasa and you'll see this on your phone or your tablet or your computer. And this is what you're going to see. So the writing's a little bit hazy, but on the left side, you have personal use. So if you're going to use this for personal use, accept that you won't use this for work and continue. Or if you have approval, you can type in your code. But on the right-hand side, we've said you should be using Box or Huddle. So what this does is it eliminates a lot of the non-malicious use intent that's happening in my company with you guys, right? So when I go back to my control panel, I can go to Bitcasa and look at my service analytics and see that 100% of people, which is me, redirected to Box, right? So I get an idea of, okay, people's behavior are changing, and this is a usage of Bitcasa that's happening. But what I can also do is I can say, let's say there's another one. Let's say Group Camp it's kind of like Basecamp. And I don't want you guys to use GroupCamp at all. So I'm going to block that, right? So now what happens is if you guys go to GroupCamp or I'll go to GroupCamp, you'll see this page now instead of one of those ugly access denied pages. And it'll say request to enable or for work use Basecamp. So I'm going to go nav at. So I want to use this for work. So I'm going to request to enable this service. And back in my dashboard as the CIO, right, I can see how people are using the different services in my company, how many unassigned services I have going on, what services are people trying to use for personal use, and my enablement requests. So these are previous ones that I've done, but this was the most recent one, so 3:10 p.m. That's the time right now. And I requested to enable that for work. So what we're trying to do at Airpost is really allow the enterprise to embrace cloud services without being the bad guy. So thanks a lot for your time.
With 5 seconds remaining, good work.
First question. Enterprises already have proxies. So how do you deal with it?
So when companies already have a proxy, we actually like to target companies that have a DLP or web filtering proxy. And we actually tie into that and forward their proxy onto us. So we have a cloud proxy that's why I could do it from here. And it's actually very easy integration if you already have a proxy.
Got time for another question?
So you're doing service, purely service redirection and notification. You're not actually doing DLP or other interception of information?
So that's actually what we're building towards. Obviously, we're early stage company in this category. But some of the features that we are adding is content inspection, granular usage behavior controls, Active Directory, plugin, things like that. So that stuff's all definitely coming in. Right now, it's mainly policy enforcement control.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, next we're going to bring on stage Miss.io.
Hello, I'm Chris Psaltis. I'm a co-founder and CEO of Mist.io. Mist.io is management, monitoring, and automation for cloud servers across several providers from any device that can access the web, basically. So let me show you how it works. I'll log in. So here you see that I already have set up 2 providers. One is the EC2 US West, and the other one the Rackspace DFW. From here, I can add more. Currently, we support Amazon, Rackspace, Linode, and OpenStack for private installations, and for those who want to manage their hybrid setups through Mist.io. So let me add another Rackspace provider. After that, I can see all my machines in one place. Here I have 2 machines running on Amazon and 1 on Rackspace. Spinning up new ones is very easy. I'll create a DB server. I select which provider I want to use, the image I would like to use, how big it is, which data center I'd like them to put it in, and also an SSH key, which will be associated with this machine. Finally, here I can paste a script which will be run once the machine is up and going. So I can use that, for example, to bootstrap my machine and do something like yum install nginx to install nginx. Finally, you can view down here the cost of the machine per hour. So let me launch it. It will take some time to provision. Let me see this one who has been created before. So I have a list of the metadata for the machine, and having an SSH key, it's easy for me now to send shell commands or directly to the machine. So up until this point, the service is free, and the software behind it, it's open source. What we do charge for, it's monitoring and automation. So by clicking here, we install CollectD, which is an open source stat gathering agent on your virtual machine. And this agent pushes back data to our infrastructure. So this will also take a while. Let me show you this one. So we collect data for CPU, load, memory, network traffic, and disk. And we plan to put more there and also some application-specific metrics. The cool thing is that it's very easy to add rules to monitor the whole thing. So, for example, I can tell it that if the load increases over a certain threshold, then you can alert me via an email, or reboot the machine, or shut it down, destroy it, or run a custom command. For example, restart Apache, in case it's burning up all your RAM. And finally, we will be deploying a launch command, so we could facilitate auto-scaling. So today, we are launching our private beta. Please subscribe to the service, speed it up, and tell us what you think. Thank you.
And with 22 seconds, I'm really impressed
Yeah, it
with
was
these
fast.
guys. All right. Anyone have any comments?
How do you plan to sell it, and how are customers going to discover it?
Excuse me?
How do you plan to sell the product, and what's the distribution mechanism? So how will customers discover the platform?
So right now, we are trying to partner with cloud providers in order to promote through them to their existing users. And also, we have a partnership with Rewardly, which is a company that prepares perk programs for startup accelerators and startup events and things like that. So we will be in the goodie bags of several such events and startup accelerators.
Could you help all of us understand in this fairly crowded space, what are one or two things that your system does that nothing else on the planet does? And what do I as a customer get out of those one or two massively differentiated things?
The biggest thing that makes us different than the rest in the space is, first of all, that we are very open source focused, so you can tweak it, install it wherever you like, and do several stuff with that. Also, we are mobile friendly, and this means, in the same time, that we have a very simple workflow, which is not the case for competing services.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, our next startup is CoJoin.
All right, hello. I'm Matt, CEO of CoJoin. We're an analytics platform specifically for joining and synthesizing data. So it's a little hard to do a demo of a analytics product in 4 minutes, so we've used a little movie magic to speed things up. First, we're going to show you how we collect data, then we're going to show you the configuration of a report, and finally, I'll live show you the actual results of that report. But first, since this is CloudBeat, I'm going to show you our stack. I'll give you a little sneak peek at the behind-the-scenes look of our automated cloud infrastructure. Here we're spinning up a new stack specifically for this customer. We made a strategic decision to use dedicated cloud resources specifically for each customer, but we didn't want to limit the types of customers that we could work with this decision. So we created a stack that allows you to start at an incredibly small and efficient size, but then scales to enterprise levels without reprovisioning or migrating your data. So here we're running, that's cloudbeat.cojoin.com, and we're ready to flip over and upload some data. This is the uploading process. We really love uploading data because marketers don't have access to developers. So you can just upload a file that you exported from some system. We've really taken a lot of care to make sure big files work. There's two types of uploads, data sets and lookups. I'll talk a little bit more about lookups later. So data sets are really, like when I think about business analytics, I think about transactions. I think about what happened, when did it happen, and am I happy with the results? So when I bring a data set in, I just really care about this date, and here we see we've automatically detected the timestamp component of the file that was uploaded, and we're already starting to create some summary analytics for the data as it's coming in. This is useful for two purposes. So first, we're able to provide some insight on a really big set of data, and I mean, a million rows or so. And it helps you to make decisions to make sure when you're picking a column that you've brought in, you've made the right decision. But also, it's really useful for our real-time web analytics and collection API. So now we're actually ready. We're going to move over, and we're going to configure a report. The key thing to notice here is we're not writing queries. We're not uploading scripts. We're just creating an event. Event is the numeric portion of a report. So here we've just created a simple event. It's a sum of revenue from the data set that we just opened. But we can do more complex things like providing a formula that performs a statistical analysis across multiple data sets. Now we've moved on. We're creating some reports. Again, we're just creating a couple different reports here. There's one that's a ranked report, which is ranking the data across multiple attributes inside the data that you've uploaded, but then we also are doing a simple time series data. So now that we've created the reports, we're actually running the processing, and we can process about 1 million records in somewhere around a minute. This is what we kind of call big little data. It's not so big that you need a big group of engineers or a big team of engineers, but it's going to make Excel crash pretty quickly. So now I'm going to actually move over and show you the live demo. Here we've created these reports. The first one is just simply showing us the trend from this fairly large file that we uploaded. And we can do some roll-ups to see that, OK, we're looking at it by month, we're looking at it by week, and great. A key component here is when we're working with analysts, we want to make sure that we can get this data out really easily. So notice here we can download the 36 rows that are currently showing here on our report by week. And we can also skip over here to the roll-up report, this ranked report that we created. And the data set contained these tracking codes. And so here we're ranking on these tracking codes, but tracking codes aren't actually that useful. So that's where the lookup table feature comes into play. We're able to join the tracking codes over to another set of data that we brought in to convert these to something that's more business-friendly. Here we're seeing a report of campaigns that have produced the most revenue over the course of the month by joining across these two data sets. And we have 167 rows that we could download. We're really excited to work with your analysts and your marketers, and looking forward to having you as customers. Thank you.
Thanks so much. All right, do we have any questions?
Sure. How do you take disparate data sources and do you normalize them? What do you do to?
That's one of the key components. Is as the data's coming in, we're performing some analysis to determine: is it a timestamp? Is it a int? Is it a string? And we bring that in, and then we only actually allowing you to connect data that's of the proper data types when you're configuring the reports.
Have you launched yet?
We're pre-launch. We're our awesome beta customer right now, collecting data. So come visit our website, and we'll get a bigger data sample. And then we've got several private beta partners that we're implementing with right now.
Do you have any feedback in terms of your pricing model, and what do you think you're going to be able to charge?
So cost-wise, we're actually able to build up the instance, and actually we're able to host these instances that can do pretty high transaction levels for around $15 a month. So we're looking in the $29.99 as a really early starting point for the product. And then as you incorporate more and more data, there's a scaling component to it that will allow you to either reduce the latency as the data is being processed, or be able to do a few more things real time and unlock a few features.
Great, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, next up we have Atom Orbit.
Good afternoon. My name is Seth Talbot, and I am CEO and founder of Atom Orbit. The enterprise has spent 30 years building a mountain of infrastructure around the PC, but now users are spending less than 40% of their time in front of it, and the applications and the data that they need to use throughout the day are not accessible on the devices that they carry with them throughout the day. The first reaction to this was to make native apps. But this is a bit of a technology merry-go-round where CIOs find themselves developing for one platform again. And as the variety of devices increases, so does the cost of supporting them. And then the cloud comes in and does nothing to simplify the user experience and actually just creates a whole bunch of other new applications that the users need to engage with. So you have a patchwork of native apps and cloud apps and legacy PC apps for a highly fragmented user experience, which is why we built Team Fusion on browser-based HTML5. Now, in one interface, you can get access to your legacy applications, you can get access to cloud-based applications, and it provides a development platform all within one home, one login, one dashboard, device agnostic, and you can take it wherever you go. We built it on HTML5 specifically because it was device agnostic. And now we have an application that feels like a native app, but it's browser-based with no plugins. Now at launch, we'll have around a dozen different applications that we work with, from SQL and Oracle and SharePoint and Salesforce and others. But the real power behind our platform is that we've engineered it specifically for channel partners to build custom solutions within the platform. Because every enterprise has specific proprietary data needs. And now with our platform as a service, which is going to be, the back end is Cloud Foundry, we know that we've got a partner solution plus out-of-the-box value. Now in one seamless dashboard, you've got access to your legacy applications, your cloud data, and custom built, all within a few touches and swipes. You can easily add as a user custom apps, and you can see up here, we have about a dozen apps that come out of the box. But the power of this is that a channel partner can build an HTML5 app within our platform, and it seamlessly blends in just like our out-of-the-box applications. With Team Fusion, you now get legacy applications and cloud applications in one platform. But now, with your legacy data, it's mobile, it's responsive, it's cutting edge, and downright sexy. We might even say it's innovative. And we're very proud that we've come as far as we have and have signed up paid engagements with Microsoft and Juniper Networks, all on friends and family and revenue. Welcome to Team Fusion. This is how business does BYOD.
Excellent. Well, we can open it up to questions or comments.
So where are you going to make your most money in terms between the split between the custom apps or just the platform itself?
So we're a SaaS model, and we are similar to the Salesforce model where we're a per user per month, and then the channel partners resell the platform and they get a commission off that first year, and then they own the custom revenue that they build into the platform. So we have about a dozen or so apps that'll come with it, but then they get the revenue off of those custom-made apps that they build in for those specific user needs.
If it's HTML5, do the apps have to only live within your environment, or?
Well, they connect into our API, but they're not proprietary enough that with minor changes they would be able to go anywhere else. We're not forcing non-standard, non-open technologies.
Excellent.
How much instrumentation is required for an app to get it onto the platform?
Anybody with web skills and understands the API would easily be able to do this. I mean, it's a developer, but it's not your like Dev 3.
How are you doing actual data fusion? So I have Tableau in Windows, which is my desktop app. Somebody sends me a list of customers in a Google Doc, or God forbid, some weird format that Box does a valiant job of trying to open up. And I need to match it against a list of high-priority Salesforce funnel customers. So there's desktop app.
So
there's
we're not trying
app.
to replace the data analyst. We make it so that your data analyst would create, say, a data view that when you log in and you pick your data source, if it's a SQL server, you give it your user credentials, you'd see that data view, you'd map it to an X, Y, and Z axis, and it would show up. But we're not trying to get in between the data analyst and this.
I got it. I was trying to understand how you're actually accomplishing the data fusion between the apps that you're wrapping.
You have 10 seconds.
You can catch me afterwards.
Okay.
Or you can catch him afterwards. Excellent.
Right.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much. Now, our last early stage company, we're going to talk to Private Core.
All right. So when we want to exchange mail privately, we use PGP. When we want to connect our private network over the public internet, we use VPN. So what we would use to protect the privacy of our virtual machines running in the public cloud environment? My name is Oded Horowitz, co-founder and CEO of Private Core. Private Core is a software company based in Palo Alto, developing our product, basically vCage, is a secure hypervisor, a bare metal hypervisor, built from the ground up to provide privacy of computation. Now let's look at a second what happens when you don't have privacy of computation. So we see here a Linux server running a database with user information, password, and user data and passwords. We've taken this hardware device that is off the shelf and loaded it with our attack software and placed it in the server. Using that, we can actually extract the database information directly from memory, as we can see here in this video. As you can imagine, if you have one of those physical devices in your servers, all your investment in intrusion prevention, firewalls, and any other security controls goes down the drain. Now, the good news is that there is a better way. With CPU advancement and the software provided by Private Core, it is now possible to run with private computation and detect against attacks such as this. So let's talk about vCage, what it is and how it works. So vCage is a bare metal hypervisor based on the open source KVM hypervisor. You can install it within your enterprise data centers or on a bare metal cloud environment, such as soft layers. Basically, vCage have a very unique design principle. The unique design principle is that unlike typical systems that use a disk for long-term storage and memory as a scratch pad for computation, and basically, as we've seen here in this demo, where using memory as a scratch pad expose that memory in a cloud environment where your data, your intellectual property, and your encryption keys even are available to any cloud providers, employee, subcontractors, or potentially government agencies, as we've seen recently. vCage uses a different approach. vCage restricts the scratchpad memory to the memory inside the CPU itself, also known as the CPU cache. vCage is capable of running full-blown virtual machines without changing any of the applications inside those virtual machines, while leaving all the memory encrypted, every single byte of that memory encrypted. Now let's look at the live demo of the product. So to boot the server, it takes quite a while. So we actually prepared a video of that. We see here the T-boot. Our hypervisor take advantage of the trusted execution technologies available on Intel systems to verify that the system does not have any malware to begin with. Once we have gone through this process, we can go into the system, and here we have a live system running our hypervisor. This is a demo guide. Okay, don't worry, I have a video for that reason exactly. So we can run through that attestation process, verify that the system was booted correctly with the right configuration, with the right software, with the right parameters, and now we can trust that remote system. The next step is to actually see a virtual machine running on that environment. This virtual machine running the same database that we have seen in the attack, this time running exclusively inside the CPU cache. Every single byte of the system memory on that server is always encrypted. So access to that memory is not important. So I would like to thank the CloudBeat panels and sponsors for selecting Private Core to participate in this event, and thank you very much.
Good job. Comments this.
What is the path of adoption for this technology, and how do you reduce the friction of sales?
What is that?
What is the path of adoption for customers, and how do you reduce the friction for selling?
Friction, yeah, it's all of them are coming together, so it's very hard to deal with the friction part. Basically, we see customers that are interested in protect their data in the cloud environment. We see customers that want to take advantage of cloud environment, and today are restricted to either on-premise or co-location location, and they are unable to utilize those environments. So we see government agencies, we see large financial institutions, we see large enterprises going for the cloud bursting model. I think that when you talk about friction, most likely you're talking about ESX, an hypervisor that is available in the market, and definitely our majority inside the enterprise. We have seen quite a few customers that specifically talking about switching from ESX to this KVM hypervisor, uniquely providing the ability for them to decouple themselves from the cloud dependency on cloud provider security.
I think that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That is it for our early stage companies. I'm going to let you all head backstage, except for Bob. I'm keeping you. But the rest of you, thank you so much for your time. And now Bob can, you can stay. You can stay right there. Bob, again, is the general partner of Norwest Venture Partners, and he's going to be judging our later stage panel, which is happening right now. I'd like to bring on stage the rest of our judges. Thanks. Andy Vitus, he is the partner of Scale Venture Partners. John Lee, he is the VP of Silicon Valley Bank. Jay Doss, he is the managing partner at SAP Ventures. And Chrissy Farr, my coworker at VentureBeat, reporter, who gets to sit next to me. Hey, doll. All right, we are going to have our first late-stage company, Averil.
Hi, everyone. I'm John Drury, Vice President of Product at Averil. Averil Access is a cloud platform designed for the enterprise that lets employees easily access, manage, and share business content on mobile devices, regardless of where that content is stored. At the same time, Averil Access serves IT staff by giving them a platform for managing business content and securing it and tracking it as it moves across the enterprise. Let's go ahead and start the app. As you bring up the dashboard, what you realize is that Averil Access provides a series of folders mapped to different content locations across the organization. Unlike other mobile content solutions, Averil Access doesn't require an organization to move its content to a new storage location or a new repository. Instead, we mapped the content at its source, whether that's on-prem in a place like SharePoint or network drives, or on the cloud in a place like Salesforce, Box, or Dropbox. The best way to get a feel for how Averil Access benefits our customers is to take a look at a couple of use cases. To kick off our scenario, let's assume that we have a salesperson who is recently visiting a manufacturing customer. Unfortunately, that salesperson ran into an injury and was actually burned by a hazardous chemical. Obviously, the immediate concern for the salesperson is to find the right kind of first aid information as quickly as they can. They're going to do that by searching out the material safety data sheet that's posted by their organization. So by using a federated search that cuts across the organization, I can enter a quick search term and easily pull up those documents, and you can see it goes across the different organizations. or the different storage locations. I can easily open up the document, find the first aid information, and treat the burn. Next, in these types of situations, I often want to refer to my standard procedures within the company for dealing with these kinds of emergency situations. Happily, our HR department is on the ball and routinely publishes this kind of information into a standard folder. For employees, they typically would just tap the training folder, pull up the document, and be able to review next steps for how to deal with this scenario. What you'll see in the upper right-hand corner is important, which is the yellow star. In any of these published folders, what this means is this document is actually available to me both online and offline. In addition, it's version controlled. So anytime HR makes a change to this document back at the source, whether it's on SharePoint or something else, I'll automatically receive the updated version on my iPad without any user intervention. Last but not least, these types of scenarios typically also spawn some type of collaboration or workflow event because they typically require compliance and filling out reports. As I move to the reporting folder, I can pick up a document that one of my colleagues started earlier today. By tapping the Edit button up in the header, I can actually launch a version of Microsoft Word Online to edit this document live. All of this is actually happening within the secure container of ABRAIL Access. I can quickly drop down, enter some information, and I can save this back to the source. And I can allow my colleagues to actually finish up this report on the back end. By combining these kinds of rich user experiences with strong IT controls and security, ABRAIL Access provides a best-in-class solution for the mobile enterprise. Thank you very much. And actually, if you have additional questions or would like more information, please visit us at abrail.com.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, well, I assume we have some additional questions up on the stage. Anybody?
Yeah, you're eliminating a lot of the features that are provided by the underlying storage providers. How do you balance that with the kind of security that you've added on top?
Yeah, we continue to roll out and add those features actually as they're requested by our customers. So we're focusing, because it's a mobile app, it's different than the desktop app, we really focus on that 80%. What are the things that people in the field need access to immediately and most often? And as we get more requests, we continue to layer those in and roll those in as we go.
20 seconds for another question?
Yeah. What's your sales and marketing go-to-market strategy?
Yeah, good question. So we're obviously a SaaS solution. So it's real straightforward. It's a per month, per user subscription-based model. And we're using a combination of inbound marketing as well as working with partners. Obviously, in the mobile space, it's a quite complex space. So we're actually working with many of the MAM and MDM vendors because this is very complementary to what they're doing. We really bring in that content expertise and the ability to offer that fine-grained management policy.
So you don't have this application up on App Store or anything like that so that people can download and start using it?
It's actually available for free trial, absolutely. It's available on the Apple Store, and there's a Google version as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, up next we have Cloud Velocity.
Hello, my name is Anand Iyengar with Cloud Velocity. Basically, to tell you what Cloud Velocity does, we extend your data center into clouds like Amazon, Azure, or OpenStack, and let you run your multi-system, multi-tier applications there without modification. This is important because data centers are getting full, and the applications are siloed in them, and you need a way to get these applications out to avoid having to grow your data center or incur high costs, and also to give yourself the agility to run your applications anywhere that you need to. We do more than just simple migration, simple one-time migration. We extend your network, compute, and storage into these cloud systems, and we let you use the clouds for development and testing, migration, of course, and also for things like failover and disaster recovery into the cloud. So it's okay, I'll show you how this works. So we've set up a multi-system, multi-tier application here. with 4 machines for demonstration purposes that we're going to move from our colo facility into AWS. So what we do is I'll take you over to the application itself and just show you that we have it running here. I'll just very quickly bring up the application. Oops, looks like our network is a little bit slow. We'll log in. And we'll be able to see the application itself and see that we repopulated with a number of accounts. So I'll bring you over to our console. In the interest of saving some time, I'll shorten the demo a little bit. I'll show you how we configure this multi-system application into our console and then give us the different features that we discussed. So here we see the configured application in the console with a lot of the information here that we extract automatically from the systems, including information about the compute, the storage, the networking, and also the cloud costs. The way we configure these systems is very simple. We try to make it easy so that you don't have to know about the cloud or your application really to use it. You just add a new application and then give it a name. And then take the servers that we've discovered in your data center and put them into the appropriate category, whether you want them to be public or private. And whether they're things like database servers that need special care and feeding because they're transactional. So then we just go to the next step. For database servers, we automatically detect and populate the right configuration to synchronize them. You can override anything you like, of course. And what we try to do is make it very easy so that the system itself takes care of all the different components about the application, discovers the different tiers, the networking, the IP addresses, and sets everything up to be migrated to the cloud. All you have to do is tell us what you want to synchronize and skip and what you want us to take over. And we take over everything right down to the underlying OS kernel and boot that in the cloud. So at this point, we're going to synchronize everything on these systems. We'll just go to the final step, which is for verification. And here we just press protect, and that would take us back to the main page. And actually, we're done. Our system would automatically install the software on the machines. There's no reboot or interruption service that happens. And now the user can just press clone to start up the system in the cloud. We'll call this my second sandbox and launch it. So it obviously takes time to boot these machines in the cloud. So we've already launched a system before. It takes about 5 minutes to boot these machines. So I'll just take you over to the existing sandbox that we've created. I'll copy this. I'll paste it in a new tab, add the right component to it, log in, and show you that we have the same set of accounts as the original. Okay? So we very simply, very easily made a copy of our applications in AWS. We have not only this dev test sandbox, as I mentioned, but also the ability to migration into the cloud and also to use the cloud for failover as well.
Thank you very much. Any comments?
Question, are you targeting any specific vertical markets in your go-to-market approach?
Very good question. So our system itself is very general, and it'll take everything agnostic of the application, whether it's running your custom assembly code or something like a Java Suite or Django or anything else, whether it's a computational system or it's a website, and move it up into the cloud sites. We are going after some verticals. In the case of Microsoft and things like that, as you can anticipate, it'd be things like SharePoint. In other cases, it's like Linux, a lot of web stacks, and a lot of computational stacks as well.
20 seconds for our last question.
Yeah. Do you do anything to secure the workloads that are out there and provide extra security since it's in the public cloud?
Excellent question. So what we do is we actually detect on the original systems what ports are used and what sort of firewalling we need to set up in the cloud, automatically incorporated into the cloud as best practices. And when we launch the systems, we generate customized firewalls for each of the hosts and encapsulate the whole group within a container so that we have multiple levels of security. We also do encryption of data in motion and data at rest as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Elastic Box.
All right, great, thank you. Hi, I'm Alberto Maestro. I'm the CTO of Elasticbox. At Elasticbox, we love cloud. We love it so much that we want to run our applications on all of them. Running those applications in the cloud is not easy, especially in an enterprise environment where the information is locked in different layers. The IT administrators know everything about the infrastructure. Then you have the architects that know what is the best practices to run the platforms and runtimes that are needed to run your applications. And then you have the developer teams that are the only ones that know really how that application works. What Elasticbox does is that it captures that information, that knowledge, in the form of policies and metadata. And it has an expert system that takes that policy information and computes perfect, repeatable operational plans to deploy and manage those applications. Let me show you how that is done. First, the IT administrator registers the different cloud providers that he might want to use, and then creates policies that determine how the different services on those cloud providers can be used by the different lines of business. Let me give you an example. If I want to run MySQL in Amazon, there is a number of options and locations that I have to configure. Only a person that is very close to understanding of how Amazon works is capable of configuring those services. What Elasticbox does allows the administrators to create policies that define how to best use for each of the different lines of business those services. Then the architect is the one that knows what is the best practices and the best way to compose and run those applications. So he can create a service catalog. That service catalog is about how these services are being deployed. The implementation of those catalogs can be done with standard technologies like Puppet, Chef, PowerShell, or Bash scripts. But we not only capture the implementation of those services, we also capture metadata about the behavior of those services, whether they contain data or not, how they relate to other services that might be on the application, and what is that relationship, if it's strong and hard. What is the life cycle of that service? What things can be done in that service? We will take that data, and we'll combine it with the policy data, and we will use that data to generate perfect, repeatable operational plans. Now, an application just doesn't run in another base, so we also need to compose applications. Elasticbox allows you to create applications, which is a composition of services. Those services might be running in machines or might be external services. Once that application has been defined, I can create an instance. And creating an instance of an application becomes an exercise of computing which resources, which policies, which metadata is compatible with that application. You will be presented with the different options. And you can click deploy. At that time, the expert system of Elasticbox is going to gather all of the data. It's going to figure out what is the best possible way to deploy that application. You don't have to create a workflow. You don't have to write code. We will calculate the best operational plan to deploy that application. And after it's been deployed, we also calculate plans to upgrade and update each of the parts of the application, whether it's infrastructure, the platform, or the application. At Elasticbox, we believe that cloud is a service to run applications. And cloud management is incomplete if we don't provide a way of actually providing application management. Thank you.
Can you talk a little bit about the competitive landscape?
We actually find that our biggest competitors are our own customers. Every enterprise out there is been trying to implement this solution for the last 5-10 years. When they see Elasticbox, they find themselves, we've been trying to do this for 5 or 6 years. Please come and help us.
It seems as though the deployment is not predictable. If you deploy it the second time or the third time, does it end up in the same cloud? And how do IT administrators feel about that lack of predictability if it isn't?
By policies. You determine the policies, and you can define this application I always want to deploy in this particular place and with this particular configuration. But when things change, you don't want to change the implementation. You want to change the policy. And then Elasticbox will recalculate the operational plan.
Excellent. Thank you.
Because this happens fine if you're building an application from scratch, but how do you insert a policy for application that's already running out there?
10 seconds.
Applications that are running there need to be imported into Elasticbox. we need to create that metadata. That is actually the process to be able to run it in the Elastic Box.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up we have Totango.
Hello, everyone. My name is Guy Nirpaz. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Totango. I've started Totango 3 years ago on a very simple premise. As the world moves to the cloud, 95% of the communication between your customers and your business takes place within your application. So the application becomes the core of your customer data. And this customer data influences every bit of your business, from trial conversion, user onboarding, customer success, renewal, upsell, and growth. What we've built into Totango is a technology that takes usage data, transforms that into actionable insights that drive the business process that drives revenue. Let me show you what I'm talking about. So let's start with a simple use case, the new customer success within a SaaS company. So the customer success team is responsible for making sure that the hundreds and thousands of customers are seeing value from the product, continuing to see value from the product, and eventually will renew. What we do is we transform usage data into a metric which we call health score. It's a combination of multiple insights coming out of usage data. And at the end of the day, we make it very easy to consume. Green, yellow, and red for the customer success team so they know who they have to focus on. Another use case, which is simple, and I'm focusing first on the consumption model, we'll dive into how it works later on, is the renewal team. So the renewal team is responsible for making sure that all customers that are up for renewal the next 60 days will eventually continue using the product. They need the information to know who's a slam dunk, who's a safe bet that's going to renew, and who's at risk, and we need to do something about this right now to make sure that it works. Another aspect of, another consumer of this information within companies is the product team. Data-driven product teams need to make sure that the efforts that they put in creating new features of the product eventually pay up. This is an example where we're looking at main features versus the new mobile version, and we're trying to track adoption over time. And lastly, which not less important, let's talk about the trial. So many companies these days have a trial program. The idea within a trial is very quickly make sure who is in the business of buying and who are the ones who just kick the tires. The ones who are in the business of buying, marketing and sales should focus on them, make sure that they're getting the support they need in order to eventually make a decision which is favorable for your company, while the tire kickers should go back into the marketing pile and continue the communication. So let me take you a little bit under the hood to show you how it works. So it all starts with real-time usage data that we collect in real time from the application. Totango builds on top of that profiles of accounts, users, and customers with multiple metrics and insights. For example, we're seeing here the smiley face is the health score, the engagement score, number of active users, multiple usage metrics, who are the users, what do they do, and also cross-correlates that with other data. This, with a very strong and powerful segmentation engine, builds into what you've seen before. Totango has already have over 100 paying customers, companies such as Zendesk, BigCommerce, HP, Optimizely, and yesterday on this stage we've announced strategic partnership with Jive. Now Jive have Totango as part of their product. We believe that we've built a very powerful technology that is very hard to do, which is the next big thing in cloud computing. It is the missing layer in the cloud software stack. Thank you.
Good job.
So to the extent that there are maybe some other players in this space, can you talk a little bit about what's your competitive advantage?
Yeah, I think we're the only player that looks at the key source of the data usage from the application that needs to be delivered in real time, and we believe that everything flows from there. Obviously, we cross-correlate the data with other information sources like the CRMs and the marketing systems and the billing systems, but if we really need to understand what customers do in the product and how they are seeing value, this is the product.
Who buys it? Is it the marketing department or the sales guys? Sales department.
So right now there are two main use cases. There's the customer success team that buys and the marketing and sales for the trial performance or the freemium model. In many cases, it's the CEO or the chief revenue officer that looks at the customer holistically and think about the entire customer lifecycle, where now it's not just the first sale and then support. It's a sale every month or every year. So you need to make sure customers see value all the time.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and our last late mid-stage company, Piston Cloud.
Hi, I'm Christopher McGowan. I'm the co-founder and chief scientist at Piston Cloud. At Piston Cloud, we write software that builds infrastructure that builds itself. We do this it's made possible by a really opinionated converged infrastructure we call Null-Tier, and it's built on technologies that we've developed internally called CloudBeat, MoxieHA, and virtual memory streaming. We're an infrastructure company. We build the plumbing of the internet, and that means that it's really hard to demo, so my apologies. This is actually a video of a build we did this morning. Right now what we're doing is building out a cloud. Sean did that by writing a configuration file and plugging a USB key into a top-of-rack switch and powering it on, and after that sat back and took a video. We built it out with 3 nodes because Piston Cloud can install a cloud, but more importantly, it can scale out a cloud hands-free. You rack the gear, plug it into a management switch and a top-of-rack switch. We automatically detect it before the hardware is actually powered on and bring it into the cloud. And then once it's added, or once it's available to add, the engineer or the administrator is able to take that and bring it in at a schedule that they decide so that you're not overbalancing your distributed storage pools or you don't run the risk of any downtime for your end users. But that's sort of also ties into some of the other technology we've built. Virtual memory streaming hooks into KVM, which is the underlying hypervisor that we use, that we orchestrate OpenStack on top of. And what this allows us to do is build a VM. And after we've done that, we can take a snapshot of this VM and then rapidly scale it out and build multiple copies of this VM almost instantaneously. And they all start from the exact same position that the other VMs started at. So the very first VM, you do your configuration, and then you can clone multiple copies of it, and they all start immediately, or as close to immediately as you can get in technology. This technology also allows us to do live migration that isn't backed by a shared storage pool, so you don't have to have GlusterFS or SAN to be able to live migrate in a Piston Cloud environment. We orchestrate all of the resources. I said we deploy on a converged infrastructure. That means your storage, your networking, and your compute is all in the same devices. The storage pools are developed, or we orchestrate on top of Ceph to provide a distributed storage environment that does object storage and block storage. And we provision that into pools based on the performance of the hard drives. So when your drives come up, we detect them, and we bring them into either the fast pool if they're SSDs, or maybe they're SAS, and then a slow pool for those that are slower, so your SATA drives. So you can actually provision your storage in a way that faster data, or your more important data can go on to the faster pool, and your slower data, or the data that's not as important, archiving, can go into the slow pool. And this backs both the object store and the block store, so both Cinder and the Swift or S3 APIs. And as part of this, we can also, part of our MoxieHA model and CloudBeat model, we're able to scale in your cloud. So when you're done using machines, if you decide, oh, I need to take these devices out, we actually remove them. You can remove them from the cloud, and we'll automatically live migrate the data off of those devices. As you see here, we're in the process of removing 5 devices, and it's showing that it's showing that the virtual machine instance is migrating off to the next node as the device is getting, or as all of the other nodes are getting removed from the cluster. And then we finish it off, and the devices are removed, they go away, and then your end user or your systems administrator can go and do their maintenance, take the drives out, take the servers out, and replace them with whatever they would like. Thank you.
Excellent. we've got a minute.
Yeah, is this a product that replaces the regular management tools that sit on top of OpenStack? And is it a product that's designed to be used on a day-to-day management basis or mainly at the deploy time when you're deploying a private cloud?
A lot of our technology is designed to be at deploy time and basically continually run but not be maintained by an administrator. My goal is to automate all of the boring things because I'm an engineer and I don't like doing boring things. And so some of that is I don't like setting up servers, so I want a computer to do that for me. So there are things that would be day-to-day, but in general, we don't compete with the more user-facing management layers.
Can you tell a little bit about the competition from Red Hat? I think they also talked about putting an OpenStack distribution out there.
Right. So I think one of the big differences behind what we do and what Red Hat does is we're trying to build hardware bare metal orchestration that takes it from bare computers that you get from Dell, you just rack them and then don't think about them. And they start off from the premise that your engineer has already deployed a Linux distribution and then you want to add OpenStack on top of it. So we tend to be more in greenfield deployments than brownfield, and we have a lot of customer traction and deployments in multiple countries where they're actually doing that. They're standing us up as greenfield cloud.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, and thank you very much, judges. You may head backstage.